Hi, Symphony Orchestra. What's up? Today we're going to do our next lesson in the music theory packet. The last one was filling in key signatures. Today it's writing major scales. It's on the very next page. So here we go. All right. So on this page, it asks you to do one simple thing. First of all, it reminds us of what the pattern is of a major scale. Starting from the first note, we have a whole step, half step, whole, half. All right. And the reason we're being reminded of this is so that down here, what we're going to be doing is writing out the notes in major scales without using a key signature in this case, just to identify really clearly what the note names are of every note. We're going to write each note out, and if it's sharp or flat, we put the sharp or flat in front of every single note as we go, as needed. Okay, so the one thing that we need to remember about are that when everything's natural, like for example in C major, B and C are a half step apart, and E and F are a half step apart. All other natural notes are one whole step apart from each other. The reason it helps to be reminded of this is that when we're doing these scales, whether there are a lot of sharps or a lot of flats or very few of either, from any one note name to the next, if they're both natural, it'll be a whole step, except for these two. If they're both flat, it'll be a whole step, except for these two. And if they're both sharp, it'll be a whole step, except for these two. So when we're dealing with note names and calculating whether we're going a whole step or half step, we just need to always refer back to the fact that these are half steps when everything's natural, and then you can shift them all up for sharps or down for flats. Here's how this is going to work. Here are the 5 keys it's asking for major scales in over here. Each one has a grand staff. I only want you to write 1 octave of the scale, so you can pick whether to start in treble clef or bass clef, but you can only do one or the other, that's fine. All right, the first one is F major, so anywhere down here I'm going to pick an F. I'll just start here in treble clef. In F major, the first note is F, so we've got that. We're going to just follow this pattern now. From F to the next note is going to be a whole step. F to G is not one of these, so an F natural to a G natural is going to be a whole step. Next, we need another whole step. G to A is a whole step. Next, we need a half step. A to B, also not a half step here, so from A, we'll need to go to a B flat for that to be a half. And this is where we write the flat sign right before that B so that we identify that that's a B flat. Next, we are on the 4th note of the scale. 4th to the 5th note is a whole step from B flat. So if B and C are both natural, that's a half step. That means that if the B is flat, it's a half step lower. Now B flat to C, that's a whole step. And so if we just write a C here, that'll be the correct next note. That'll be a whole step in the right place right here. All right, another whole step from C would be D. One more whole step from D, we would go to E, and that's a whole step. And then then we need a half step, E to F. This is one of our 2 right here. E and F, when they're both natural, that's already a half step. So our last note in the scale is going to be F. And that's it. This is all the correct note names. Some of these scales, there are other ways to look them up. You can look on your scale sheet and see what the notes are and kind of copy them down. But the goal here is to be thinking through this process just so that you know really clearly whatever note you're on, what note would be a half step higher or what note would be a whole step higher. So for each one of these scales, F, G flat, A, B, D, on each one of these grand staves here, you're going to write out the scales. Again, just in 1 octave, but think really carefully about the whole and half steps and make sure you write the correct note names with sharps or flats as needed right next to the notes. All right, have fun. Can't wait to see your responses. Bye-bye.